Welcome to LexTalk World Talk Show presented by Clickaway Creators. Today we have Merachelle, Rala, Borracho with us. And Merachelle is a litigator and notary public, owner of MRB Law Office, which is based in Cebu, Philippines. And she specializes in criminal law, property law, labor law, to name a few. And she's also the law professor at the University of Cebu School of Law since 2016. And in the year 2020, in the month of April, she created Lex Classrooms with Facebook page and YouTube channel as digital info business and education program where which provides contents about law and the legal world directed to law students, bar examinees, new lawyers, and the public in general. So now, without further ado, let's dive into more about her. So, hi, Merachelle. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hello, Nikhil. Thank you for having me this time.
Thank you so much. It's really a pleasure to have you here. And now, Merachelle, I would just like to ask you if you can just guide us through your journey so far.
As to my career as a lawyer, I became a lawyer back in 2014, and actually, I'm on my 8th year in the legal practice, and still, I maintain my own law office, and for now, I have six persons working for me, and I'm still working as a law professor in the University of Cebu School of Law. And for now, I am maintaining Lex Classroom as one of my advocacies in the legal practice.
Thank you so much for guiding us through your journey. And now, can you please tell us about the complex legal issue that you worked upon and also describe the complexity and tell us how you approached it?
It's quite a difficult question too, but I'll try to answer that in a simple way. Now, as to the legal issue, I would have to limit my answer because I'm handling cases still pending before the courts. And when it comes, I would rather answer the question in a way that what is a complex legal issue that I am encountering through time, not necessarily a case, but I will answer that in a way. The complex issue would be how should lawyers conduct themselves in the internet, because usually I hear questions from my clients asking, is it okay for lawyers, judges to have Facebook accounts or social media accounts and even YouTube channels? And actually, last week there was one who asked me if it's okay for a lawyer to do a consultation via TikTok. So that's one. So to me, I'm divided because I want to answer my client and I also want to protect the legal profession. And I'm also concerned about my brothers and sisters in the profession. So that's one thing, and especially that the internet is a boundless environment, and we do not know where it starts or where it stops and how should things be done or conducted in the internet. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you so much for giving such a nice answer. And now let's talk something about the pandemic that we are still, hang on to. And now the pandemic actually saw some courts begin moving towards more remote proceedings and availability. So is this sustainable and a possible way to increase access to justice, in your opinion?
In my opinion, although I like the question because it's something about my opinion now, although I cannot say that I am an authority given that I'm not working for the Supreme Court, although I can relate to remote proceedings because I'm handling cases before the courts like the regional or municipal trial courts, which conduct remote proceedings. Now, I can say that it can be sustainable. However, there's a limit to its sustainability, especially that here in the Philippines, we always have problems with connectivity. Now, our internet, even our courts, don't have stable internet connection. And I think if that issue will be resolved first, then we can assure that litigants will have better procedure, faster and easier procedure if we use technology and incorporating that in our criminal and civil procedure in our courts. So with that aspect, I can say it's really sustainable, and the proper tools, and especially if we will have to consider connectivity, it should be accessible to everyone, especially those of the public, so that anytime if their presence is needed in court, and the court can also assure that there will be no lulls or gaps of the connection, then that can be good, and that can be done in a longer term.
Thank you again for that wonderful answer. And now I would like to ask you, like, how would you rate the current legal system's drive towards encouraging access to justice? Is there a tangible moment in closing the justice gap?
Um, to answer that, we have to refer or to contextualize the answer. First, if we refer to the Philippines, I think um, it's really good. It's to me, it's quite commendable for the Supreme Court to lead that. And in fact, I think it's the pandemic that forced our courts to have that procedure or system. Now, in fact, even prior to that, I knew several jurisdictions doing already the remote proceedings. Now, actually, again, I would like to go back to my issue on connectivity, that the state or the government, especially the courts, must ensure that there's a stable internet connection. And with that, the gap between, especially the poorest of the poor, they have no access, actually, especially the far-flung areas. So if we're looking at this part or members of society which do not or who do not have access to good internet, then that that should be addressed first. Now, if this will be adopted by our courts, again, it's more of the internet consideration and the data which is being stored after the proceedings. Now, it is quite commendable to me, especially that during the pandemic, health risk is involved. There are lawyers who are way older and they might have medical problems.
So, how would you rate the current legal system's drive towards encouraging access to justice? Is there a tangible movement in closing the justice gap?
Okay, that's a difficult question, and I know I'm not the proper authority to answer that, but I will answer your question in a way that I'm I'm a litigator, and I always go to court and I cater clients. Now, the current legal system here in the Philippines, especially, is, to me, it's quite commendable. The move of the Supreme Court to have online video conference hearings, and even for actually the pandemic forced our courts to have and adopt the online video conference, and I think that is very good, especially for those lawyers who might have health problems, or they're considered as at risk during the pandemic. Now, the current legal system here in the Philippines, I would say, is really trying to its best to close the gap, the justice, access to justice, especially for those who are poor, for those who are in the far-flung areas, and even, especially I would commend the Supreme Court in the program of decongesting our jails, especially when there are marathon hearings are conducted, and even mediation is part of our current justice system. Um, these are tools that to me are very effective in providing better access to justice. And access does not only mean being able to connect with the justice system, but while you are having a case, it means that your case is being handled speedily. So there is a speedy trial. So in this way, I can say that we are doing good for now.
Thank you again. I mean, you said that it's actually a difficult question to answer, but the way that you explain this, so it's really something to appreciate. So now moving forward, so in the era of legal technology, what are the most commonly used tools for you?
Especially that I'm a millennial. Now, the most common tool would be basically my computer and my mobile phone, and these are very um, when it comes to the hardware. Now, as to the software, Google actually is very very helpful, and I think everyone knows that and accepts that observation of mine. Now, I'm doing, or in my office especially, we're trying to convert from the manual way to the electronic way. We're using scanners now, and we're trying to produce electronic documents and electronic copies of the printed ones. So these are very common tools, although they're very reachable. You can just have them, but the fact that you're like transforming the legal questions or legal concerns into something electronic, then that requires so much patience. And to me, the my personnel is there. I consider them in that aspect as common tool, because they're the ones entering the data in our system. So I think that that would serve the purpose of my office of converting to electronic method, I think.
Great, and absolutely, I completely agree with you. As you said that, the one tool that actually, or the software that actually helps you is Google. So it's the ultimate lifesaver. Yes, I also use it. I mean, everyone. I mean, there is hardly someone who is, not familiar with the word Google. So yeah, Google
Yes.
is absolutely the best. Yeah. So now moving forward, as we all know that time is money in any profession and in legal is most of all. So how do you ensure to make the best use of your time as a lawyer?
Yes, lawyers are very busy. It's quite a difficult question again. um, Actually, now I put up a system on. It's just very simple. I have an Excel file, and I put there what time that I start in doing the task for a particular client. I also have my secretary taking notes, especially during video conference or conference in my office. Now, I always try, although sometimes the attention span when you study the case, I always make sure that my breaks are also spent for the benefit of my client. What do I mean by that is that when I bill my client, I should assure, it's like an assurance to my client that that time spent, that time billed for that client was totally and exclusively used for my client, and I don't answer any phone calls, and it's my secretary doing that. And whenever my calendar is blocked, then I don't make any other commitments, unless of course there's a sudden cancellation of the appointment. So I think that helps me make sure that the times I spent for my client is really for that client alone.
Thank you so much for sharing such great insights with us. And we look forward to having a chat with you again in the future on some other trending topics in the international legal world. So, for our viewers, if you like this chat with Merachelle, Rala, Borracho, please like and share this video and also subscribe to Clickaway Creators YouTube channel to appreciate what we do. And you have definitely more coming from the legal space. So, this is Nikhil for Let's Talk World.